He was walking back to the pavilion in the India-Pakistan marquee clash that happened in Ahmedabad this past Saturday. Now, critics have argued that this is unsportsmanlike behavior, that this is not hospitable, it does not show India or the venue, in this case Ahmedabad, and the crowd that had come there in any nice fashion or a hospitable light, and that this is a political slogan and it should not be thrown in the face of a cricketer who has nothing to do with politics. But then, Mohammad Rizwan constantly offers namaz on the cricket pitch whenever he scores 100, or even during the drinks break like he did during the previous match against Sri Lanka. Isn't that also a political act? Because you're carrying out an act of religiosity in front of tens of thousands of people, not many of whom share your same faith. So isn't that also a political act? If namaz on the cricket field is okay and the ICC has no problems with that, then why should Jai Shree Ram not be okay? And by the way, this is not like players are hurling slogans at other players. This is a small section of the crowd, perhaps not even representative of the entire crowd. What do you do to rein that small section in? But first, the story and the huge controversy that it has led to.
கேமா பார்க்குங்க என்று சொல்ல வேண்டிய ஒரு அருகதை உதயநிதி ஸ்டாலின் அவர்களுக்கு இல்லை என்பது என்னுடைய தாழ்மையான கருத்து.
All right, so is it fandom or jingoism? Let's try and bring it up on our wall here. This is a special Motorola 5G tweet of the day, and it started off with Udayanidhi Stalin. This is Motorola, India's best 5G smartphone. Tweet of the day, which sparked this entire political war of words.
Hello, Moto.
So this is what Tamil Nadu Minister Udayanidhi Stalin said, which started this whole political war of words. He said India is renowned for its sportsmanship and its hospitality. However, the treatment meted out to the Pakistan players at the Narendra Modi Stadium is unacceptable because it has reached a new low. Sports should be a unifying force, fostering true brotherhood. Using it as a tool to spread hatred is condemnable. Hashtag India versus Pakistan. This is what started it off, but this has, of course, drawn sharp reactions from the BJP and its affiliate organizations. In fact, BJP leader Gaurav Bhatia had tweeted this out sometime back, and I quote from that tweet that the hateful dengue, malaria has now come out once again to try and spread poison, but there is silence when a match is stopped to offer namaz. Our Lord Sri Ram resides in every corner of the universe. And then State BJP President in Tamil Nadu, Annamalai, he said, and I quote, that this was not a bid to insult Pakistan. When Pakistani players landed at the airport, we gave them a grand welcome. We should look at sports as sports. At certain points, emotions will come in. Udayanidhi Stalin's remark is baseless. This is what Annamalai, who is the State BJP President, said in response to Udayanidhi's comments. Now, while the outrage is over Jai Shree Ram, and yes, you can argue and you can make a case that why are you throwing a political slogan at a Pakistani player, and it's a sign of an inhospitable crowd. But Pakistani cricketers also willingly bring up politics, and they've seemingly been part and parcel of what they have done in the past. No less than Imran Khan, the legendary captain, former Prime Minister. He said in 1982 that cricket with India is not a game, but it's a jihad for Kashmir. This was when he was Pakistan captain way back in 1982. The Rawalpindi Express, Shoaib Akhtar, he said in 2020 that Pakistan will first capture Kashmir and then invade India in what he termed as Ghazwa-e-Hind. And then in 2021, in the ICC T20 World Cup, when Rizwan scored 100, Waqar Yunus said this in commentary, that Rizwan offering namaz in a crowd of Hindus That was my favorite part. Not the fact that Rizwan scored 100 or the fact that Pakistan beat India in that game, but the fact that he offered Namaz publicly in that stadium. That was the best part of the match versus India. So then, the question that's being asked, and this is our debate topic tonight, it's the Motorola 5G debate topic tonight.
Hello, Moto.
So, why so much anger and outrage over Jai Shree Ram, but no anger or outrage against Namaz being offered in a cricket ground? That's the debate tonight. Let me now go across. Is it fandom or is it jingoism? Is the question we're asking. You can also tweet on our Twitter handle at CNN News 18. Ajay Ratra, former cricketer, joining us. Suman Raman, political analyst. Vinod Selvam is spokesperson of the BJP in Tamil Nadu. Ratan Sharda, political analyst. And Vazma Ayubi is an Afghan cricket enthusiast. Let me start with Ajay Ratra. Ajay Ratra, where do you stand? There is a cricketing argument to be made that, it's not very charitable for fans. Fans did not behave decently by throwing a political slogan at a cricketer, and a cricketer who was dismissed. He was walking back to the pavilion. You're anyway upset about losing your wicket. It's not very charitable for fans to do this, and that too at his face while he was walking back to the pavilion. That's the cricketing argument. The political argument is that why are you expecting hospitable crowds everywhere? Sometimes it's part of sportsman's life to deal with hostile crowds. So, big deal.
Yeah, I think sports is one field where religions and all you can see all the players with different religions play at one place, and in fact we used to have water and everything with the one glass of available and drinking and all. So sports, I think, brings all religions together. And as a sports person and as an individual also, we should respect all the religions, and everyone has to do their bit. They're offering prayers or whatever they want to do. Of course, without harming the other. In this particular case, I feel I just come to the namaz first. Whenever any Pakistani player achieve any milestone, he offers his prayer and thank God, thank Allah for his achievement. And nothing wrong in that. That thanking God, nothing wrong in that. And in this particular case of chanting Shri Ram, I think the people are also, they have a full liberty to enjoy enjoy the match. And whenever India is doing well, whenever India is taking Pakistan wicket, being an Indian, it is obvious that they will enjoy as long as they're not harming the others. So I feel nothing wrong in that by chanting Shri Ram, Nara, whatever happened in the Ahmedabad match.
So Suman Raman, what then is so offensive about it? It was not just the fact that Rizwan was at the receiving end of this when he was walking back to the pavilion. I believe it was there. The crowds were chanting this through the course of the match as well. So what is wrong? If namaz can be offered on the cricket field, then what's wrong with Jai Shree Ram as a slogan?
No, this is not, Zaka, we are not talking about Jai Shree Ram being chanted in a stadium. That is a different issue. Here it was clearly intended as a kind of taunt to Rizwan as he was walking back. You can see in the video, the spectators are actually going close to the fence and waving the flag, which is fine, but also chanting this. Now the point is this may be an ICC tournament, but at the end of the day, these are our guests. The Pakistan cricket team is our guest at this point of time. And whatever you do whatever you can as a host to make the guest comfortable. That is Indian culture. I mean, whether it is the culture of New India, I don't know, but it has traditionally been a culture, and it is a global culture that when you invite somebody to your house, you don't do something which they may find unpleasant or they may not like.
No, but Suman, they got a very hospitable reception in Hyderabad, both at the matches as well as, of course, at the airport. You can't expect every crowd to be hospitable to you. Sometimes you face hostile crowds. What's the big deal?
No, this is not about facing a hostile crowd. See, this speaks more about us. It doesn't speak about the Pakistan cricket team. And to say that Rizwan said this, or he tweeted this, or Shoaib Akhtar said something in the past, or Waqar Yunus said something in the past, that shows them for what they are. That does not mean we should behave in the same way, Zaka. I mean, I find it strange that people go on justifying. Do you know what Waqar Yunus said? Do you know what somebody else said?
Okay.
So the argument seems to be that if they go low, you must also go low. I don't get that.
So let me ask Vinod Selvam, in the same tournament, just a few days before the Ahmedabad match happened and the Ahmedabad incidents happened, in Hyderabad they were given a rousing reception. They were a very hospitable crowd. People were shouting slogans of Jeetega Bhai Pakistan in the stands. So why can't all crowds be that hospitable? The city that you come from, Vinod, Chennai, 20 years ago, the Pakistan cricket team got a standing ovation. I don't know if it will happen today in this day and age, but they certainly did get a standing ovation after defeating India in a test match. Because at the end of the day, that's sportsman spirit. That's what people like Sumant are saying, that where is that hospitality gone? At the end of the day, if we believe in India, Atiti Devo Bhava, whether you like them or not, they are your Atithis. You have to accord them a warm welcome. Instead, you had a hostile environment. Vinod.
The Pakistan cricket team had got their best reception when they reached the hotels at Ahmedabad where they are going to stay. So it was not just Hyderabad where they got this, even in Ahmedabad they got a very warm reception. Now coming to the point that Jai Shree Ram was chanted, it is ridiculous or funny that there is even a debate being made on this topic. Jai Shree Ram is the cry, and it's a prayer of Hindus, of crores of Hindus who believe in the religion. It is a prayer. We are praying to our God that India, at our motherland, our country, should win over a team which we see as a rival, both on the field and off the field. Now this is nothing to do with the religious angle, because it is the same Indians, the same people in Delhi who were cheering for Afghanistan against England yesterday. We've been cheering for Bangladesh. Even in Chennai we cheered for Bangladesh about a few days back. So these are all Muslim countries. So it is nothing to do with religion here. It is just that against Pakistan, we are praying to our gods to bless us well, to bless us enough for a victory over Pakistan, and there is no harm in this. And it's really funny that this tolerance debate is only put out against Hindus. When Shoaib Akhtar or Wasim Akram says something, why are you making a point of it? Okay, well and good. When Hindus are chanting Jai Shree Ram, why are you making a point out of it? Why do you think it's inhospitable? Or why do you think a crowd is unruly? Because they prayed to their God. They prayed en masse. If Rizwan can go on the field and who can go on the ground and do namaz, if he can pray to the God he believes in, which is his right, what is wrong in crores of Hindus, lakhs of Hindus chanting Jai Shree Ram to their God when a match is going on? It's every individual's right. We live in a secular country where everyone is allowed to practice religion.
Okay.
We are not hurling abuse at another person's religion.
Okay. Before I go to Vazma, Ayubi and also to Ratan Sharda, let Sumant have a quick rebuttal. 10 seconds. I need to go to the two guests who have been waiting. Yeah.
Two very quick points, Zaka. First of all, there is a contradiction in what Vinod says. First, he says it's got nothing to do with religion, and then he says what is wrong if we chant our religious, slogan or whatever. So that is a clear contradiction. The second, again, it comes back to the same argument. They are doing this, therefore we do that. If somebody behaves in a boorish, uncouth manner, to say that I will also behave in the same manner because he behaved like that, I don't know. I mean, the whole argument is that we have a culture. Aditi Devo Bhava has been the tradition of India for centuries. And to say that, I do not bother about it today because they did the same thing. I don't know why we compare us. I don't see why it's necessary to compare our crowd in Chennai. I was there when the standing ovation was given to the Pakistan team, and I didn't think that there was an iota of anything wrong with it.
So let me ask Vazma Ayubi, because I think Vinod mentioned this about the reception that was given to the Afghan team, the cheering that was given to the Afghan team yesterday, and Vinod is right. I mean, tens of hundreds of thousands of people, Indian fans who were there in that match between Afghanistan and England at the Firozshah Kotla, at the Arun Jaitley Stadium yesterday, they were cheering Afghanistan. So this whole argument, Vazma Ayubi, that by throwing one religious slogan against a Pakistani cricketer who follows a different religion, it's Islamophobic, that doesn't hold water at all, because the same Indian fans were cheering for your Afghan team.
Yes. Well, in fact, I was there for the match that we were playing against India, and a lot of people were cheering for Afghanistan as well as what they were cheering for their own team, which was India, their home team. Yep. But yesterday, when we were playing against England, the crowd was cheering for Afghanistan mostly, and we really appreciate that. even during the match between India and Afghanistan, people were chanting Jai Shree Ram, Jai Shree Ram. I think it's just one group of people, and India is a secular country, and if they want to praise their God in a stadium collectively, I don't think there should be any problem with that, because I, as an Afghan Muslim, and our whole team is, we're all Muslims. We didn't have any issue with that. And same way, the Pakistani cricket players offering namaz on the ground, it's beautiful. I mean, let everybody be themselves. Let's keep politics and religion out of sports, because sports in itself is a religion.
Okay. Ratan Sharda, the other interesting aspect is, and I think this is where the ICC/BCCI sort of needs to come in. When MS Dhoni, I remember this was a few years ago, he was wearing these wicket-keeping gloves which had the military fatigues on it. I think it was right after one of the terror attacks from Pakistan-sponsored terror attacks that happened on India. The ICC immediately pulled him up saying it's a political statement, you have to change the gloves, right? Rizwan scores 100 against Sri Lanka and then dedicates it to Gaza. Apparently in the India-Pakistan match, and not many people noticed this, the shoes he was wearing were the colors of the Palestine flag. Now, it can very well be asked, why is the ICC not pulling him up? Is this not a political statement, right? So, it can't be that for Dhoni you have one set of standards and for Rizwan you have another set of standards.
Well, Zaka, most of people have said, I would have said, you took away the last 2 points also from me, that's fine. Point is, to call Jai Shree Ram as a political slogan is missing the entire issue. Jai Shree Ram is not a political slogan, it's a devotional slogan. It is a slogan which was popularized by Bhagwan Hanuman, and that is never taken as political slogan. Secondly, as you rightly pointed out, Rizwan dedicated, see, for Pakistan, every field, every activity is pure Islamic politics. We know that. And unfortunately, Suman had called their namaz as uncouth and boorish. That is what he said, that you can't go what they do boorishly or uncouth, we should be more disciplined. That is how it will be interpreted. I'm sorry to tell Suman. Now, even if you take all this together, that is how it will be interpreted, sir.
You cannot
no, you go ahead, check what he said.
Let him finish, Sumant. I'll come back to you. Let Ratan Sharda finish. Let Ratan Sharda finish, then I'll come back to you,
We know
Sumant.
there is a video, Ahmad Shehzad telling Sri Lankan Tilak Ratne that if he becomes Muslim, he will straight away go to heaven. It is on the field. Then Danish Kaniya says he faced the same thing all through his life in his entire cricket career. So for Pakistan, everything is Islam, everything is politics. Now leave that aside. All people have made the point that it was effervescent, response of the crowd, and it was not because he offers namaz. Nobody disturbed anybody's namaz in our Indian sports field. So let that be. My point is why DMK and the Dot Alliance people are upset. They were not upset when they passed a resolution. Saying that release all terrorist Muslims from jails. That was a step. That was a resolution passed by Tamil Nadu Assembly. They were not upset when Waqf Board claimed a 1300-year-old temple older than Islamic rule in India as their own. They were not upset when a DMK minister said, I have demolished a 300-year-old temple, I am proud of it. They did not get upset when Christians demanded 1000-year-old Hindu temple to be renamed. So this entire facade is only because these people hate Hindus, they hate Sanatan Dharma. So this criticism is only an extension of their effort to eliminate Sanatan Dharma, nothing more, nothing less. So let us just forget this criticism. It was sports. Every kind of welcome was given to Pakistanis. They did not misuse it. If somebody offered namaz, fine, nobody had a problem. But as a challenge to the person, if people raise slogan, we should not get so much upset because we have been sledged very badly in Pakistan time and again. I am not saying we become boorish or uncouth, but when fans do something, it becomes an issue of national debate. I think that is not the point. I'm missing the point. Point is, they hate Sanatan Dharma, they hate Hindu, and entire Dot Alliance, which is against this, is why they are creating a whole halalu halalu.
So Sumant, again, before we get to that whole Udaynidhi wala point, Pakistani crowds, there have been hospitable Pakistani crowds and there have been inhospitable Pakistani crowds also. Famously in the 1989 tour, Krishmachari Shrikant, I remember, was physically assaulted in Karachi, right? I saw on Twitter Lakshman Shivaramakrishnan again from the city of Chennai saying how he was, racially abused when in his first tour to Pakistan. So it's not like hostile crowds are only seen in Ahmedabad, or that hostile crowds are just an India problem or a North India problem or a Hindu problem. I mean, there are hostile the English crowds in the Ashes are just as boorish, perhaps even more boorish than what you have suggested. So my point is that in one case, you can't selectively pick that and say, oh, it's a religious slogan, it's a political slogan, you're being inhospitable, it's against Atithi Deva Bhava. Whereas everywhere else, I mean, the football fans across the world, they're rowdy.
Yes.
Yeah.
But players deal with it, they put up with it.
Okay. First, there are two things. One, to clarify to what I said about the boorish behavior, it is referring to the comments that was made by Waqar Yunus or Shoaib Akhtar in the past. And coming from a person like Mr. Ratan Sharda, who's known for peddling, what he peddles night after night. I think that's a big thing, Yeah.
No personal comments.
I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything. I only said
you said something.
No personal comments.
What peddling? What is peddling?
Night after
Sir,
night.
what is peddling?
You
Dr.
judge for
Suman
yourself
C.
what
Raman,
you peddle.
what
I
is
didn't say what you peddle.
What did I
I
peddle?
didn't say
What did I peddle? I made
You
a
know
very
what
frank
you peddle,
statement.
sir.
I made
You
an
know
honest
what you
statement.
peddle.
Because
You know
you
what
made a
you peddle,
statement
sir.
after
You know
you
what
made
you
a
peddle.
demand.
No.
You made a statement
No,
immediately
no,
after
no,
somebody
no,
said
no,
talked
no,
about
no.
Namaz
The whole
of this
country knows
person.
what you peddle, Mr. Sharda. The
Oh,
whole
come
country
on.
knows
Then
that.
why do you want to
Never
peddle?
mind.
Okay, so
Never
I
mind.
peddle
Night after
lies.
night.
You
Okay,
will come to
1
any
minute.
debate. You will say anything
Jaka,
as a god of
Jaka,
everything.
Jaka, one
Mr.
second.
Suman, I give you
Jaka, let me
respect.
complete
Okay,
my
Don't
point.
let's keep it to the topic, please. Let's keep it to the topic. Okay, Sumant, clarify, and no personal attacks. Request to all the guests. No personal attacks. Yeah.
One more clarification.
Sumant, I never expected to be bullish. I never did you. Never.
No, I'm sorry. 1 minute. Lakshman Shivaramakrishnan is a member of the BJP. So let's put it out there. Now he's saying all this, that he was abused when he was a 16-year-old who went to Pakistan and all that. The fact remains that it has to be put on record that he is now a member of the BJP.
No, but how does that change how he was treated by a crowd in his first tour to Pakistan? I mean, are you saying he's lying?
Change. No, I'm not saying he's lying.
Then?
But I'm asking a few questions as to why he never made this a big issue earlier. If he felt so strongly about the abuse that he suffered in Pakistan, he had to wait for this incident to come up with something which happened in the late 80s. Wow. Now, Zaka, my point is very simple, Zaka. What Rizwan is doing is wrong. He has got no business to make political comments. If the ICC does not pull him up for it, that shows what a weak-kneed organization the ICC is. If there are people who are violating the code for the players, whether he is an Indian or a Pakistani or an Australian or an Englishman, the rule is a rule. And it is right. I agree with you that these people should not be allowed to make political statements and get away with it.
Okay.
Pull him up, ban him for a few matches. Absolutely justified. The point is to say that you should retort by doing this and behaving in a manner that Rizwan behaves by making political statement is something that I don't agree with.
Okay.
I mean, that's about all that I'm saying.
Ajay Ratra, I bring back that example because people keep saying, BCCI has so much weight, Indian cricket has so much weight, ICC will do nothing against, Indian cricketers because bulk of the money is coming from here and so on. MS Dhoni was the captain of the Indian team. He was arguably the biggest star that we had in the last 20, 30 years. And he was pulled up. And not like he was making any political statement or anything. He just had the army fatigues on his gloves. Right? People who want to derive political meaning out of it can, because it happened right after a Pakistan-sponsored terror attack and so on.
Zaka, he is TA member. He is TA officer.
But
he's a territorial officer.
Exactly, and he's a member of the territorial army. Yes, correct. You're right. Thanks for reminding me, Ratan Sharda. For that, the ICC pulled him up. But Rizwan wearing the flag of Palestine on his shoes, that nobody will pull him up for.
See, Zaka, I think if something happens, accordingly, ICC or either BCCI or whichever federation is is the concerned party, he observes and keeps in mind, and accordingly they take the decisions. They must have some committee as well. And of course, you have seen many cricketing rules as well. Whenever it happens for the first time, and then accordingly they make amendments and do modification. And one thing I just like to, in terms of hospitality, there's a lot of talk that India is a very good country who, it's like Atithi Deva Bhava. which is very rightly, and we are from the same culture that we do serve and the guest and whatever we can do, but that should be, and that is off the field. And when we are on the field, I think not even a single percent of hospitality you expect when you are coming as an overseas. I just tell you one example. I made my test debut in West Indies at the age of 20. It was in 2002, 20 years back. And I still remember there, lot of chants coming that kill that boy. Come on, Blackie, kill that boy. So when we are on the field, we don't expect that hospitality. In fact, some bowlers, some fast bowlers, they don't want to get you out. They want to hurt you. But that is fine with game because they want to play hard. And yes, of course, off the field, you can expect that hospitality. But when you are on the field, definitely opposition will want you to get out. And also some sledging is also allowed, for making this game very exciting and sporting, which is, it should be, there's a borderline. But when you are on the field, you should not be,
So, Vinod Selvam, the other point that's also being made is that, this happened in Ahmedabad, this happened in Gujarat, it happened in a stadium named after Narendra Modi. What else do you expect? This is the other argument that's being put forth by the people who are saying that this is inhospitable behavior, this is uncharitable behavior, this is not how a sporting crowd should behave. Do you think that's a political argument? Because again, they are drawing comparisons. Look at the Chennai crowd, look at the Hyderabad crowd. They're all being very hospitable. But in Ahmedabad, suddenly they're not hospitable.
Ahmedabad is the only city which hosted the match between India and Pakistan to start with. Also, let's not forget that the statement is coming from Shri Udayanithi Stalin is the most ironical one we can come across. These are the same people who went on stage and compared Sanatan Dharma to cholera and malaria and said that it is their fight to ensure that Sanatan Dharma gets destroyed as much as cholera and malaria should get destroyed. Now, these people trying to preach brotherhood is the funniest part of it. DMK has no right to talk about secularism or to talk about the rights of Hindus because they are the most anti-Hindu party which the country is having right now. They are the biggest evil plaguing the society. Also, again coming to the point, trying to politicize this comment Jai Shree Ram. Jai Shree Ram does not belong to BJP. Jai Shree Ram does not belong to Ahmedabad. Jai Shree Ram is a slogan which is being recited from Kashmir to Kanyakumari. Everyone who believes in Lord Ram says this, and it's a part of the Indian culture to say this. We have been giving the Pakistan players great hospitality. Yes, the Pakistan players were treated well in Hyderabad. The Pakistan players were treated very well 20 years back in Chennai. But what did they do after doing the victory lap? They were chanting Allahu Akbar. All the players who won the match chanted Allahu Akbar right in the middle of the field. It is their religious belief. No one politicized that comment. But today, politicizing Jai Shree Ram is ironical. It's stupid even to bring up this sort of an argument.
Okay.
And DMK talking about is just trying to gain some brownie points, especially right now with the Kaveri dispute going on. You have not been able to speak to your brothers in arms, the Congress which is there in Karnataka, and bring water to the farmers of Tamil Nadu. Udayanithi Stalin has not made one comment as a minister against the Karnataka Congress. But then today, talking about the India-Pakistan match which happened in Ahmedabad and making comments on the people who watch the match is ridiculous.
Okay.
I think you need to really concentrate on the problems which are plaguing the society right now.
Wasma Ayubi, Afghanistan and Pakistan have also had problems in the past. There are, territorial issues, there's a major border issue. And even when Afghanistan and Pakistan play cricket, it is also, things get quite heightened and quite passionate and so on. Have there been instances where each other's fans have been hostile to the opposition team? I remember when Afghanistan upset Pakistan a few years ago, it was a big thing. And things could have been said on the field between fans and players. But that's not something that is going to become such a big talking point. One section is offended on Twitter. People are saying, how the crowd is inhospitable, it's uncharitable, etc. That's part and parcel of the game. And these are professional cricketers. They make a lot of money. They are paid to do this. This is their job. They're trained to do this. Why should, 15 or 20 fans chanting a slogan at a professional cricketer who does this for a living day in and day out become such a big offensive thing on social media or otherwise?
You're absolutely right. I mean, there has been a rivalry in this cricketing field whenever India has faced Pakistan, or well, now it's whenever Afghanistan facing Pakistan. Fans will have their own issues. Fans will take sides. There will be fights. There have been instances where the Afghan fans have had, like, physical fights with the Pakistani fans in Sharjah Stadium. But I mean, you cannot. It just represents that group of people. It does not represent the whole country. It does not represent the whole culture or the whole nation. But I mean, these things keep happening. But the sport is going to go on in these. The players. I'm sure they have been through all of this in the past as well, and they will keep their spirits high because they're sports people, and that's what they do. They look beyond all of this.
So, Ratan Sharda, what do you say to that argument? At the end of the day, the people who should feel intense rivalry to each other should be the sports people. But you look at pictures of Virat Kohli and Haris Rauf speaking to each other, or Rohit Sharma had a moment of banter with, I think, Babar. If those guys are okay to get along and there is camaraderie, then why should the crowd behave in the manner in which it behaved?
Well, I think it is very natural for players to be, sportsmen to each other, play with each other, and be happy with each other. That is the ideal way. But sports fans are fans. They make what the game is. If you feel that fans are not behaving well, they behaved very badly with Virat Kohli also at one time. They threw bottles on the Indian players also. They have criticized their own players. So they have certain kind of fire in them for any game, any player. When they suddenly behave irrationally, to make that a national issue is not correct. Secondly, why are people suddenly worried about India's image as Atithi Devo Bhava and all that? I don't understand. Because they take contrarian view about the nation itself. When it's war between Ukraine and Russia, when it's war between Hamas and Israel, these people come on the TV, they take sides which are totally different from what the Indian government has decided to take a line and make contrary statements, make controversial statements. That is what takes India's image down, not these small matters of the sports stadium, because fans have been known to behave rowdy in every country, and who doesn't know about how Australia behaves with the cricketers and also their fans, how difficult it is to play in Pakistan. I am not saying we have not made anybody's game difficult. We have had wonderful times with every team, and let us admit it, Pakistan playing in India is something that today's India, with kind of animosity Pakistan has shown, with terror in Kashmir, people have not really liked it. There is a vertical split in people who like cricket but decided not to watch India-Pakistan matches in India. That is the bitter truth. But still, since they were brought in, nobody destroyed the pitches. Nobody threw bottles at the people. They just enjoyed it. When they wanted, they raised their resentment to a person who was already playing politics.
Okay.
I don't know what is all this halabaloo about.
So let me give the final word to Suman. Suman, there was a time in the 90s when, the pitch at the Wankhede was dug up before an India-Pakistan game. There was a time when bottles were thrown at Pakistani fielders who were fielding on the boundary line. At least compared to all of that, what happened on Saturday, why a small section of the Ahmedabad crowd, not the entire crowd, a small section of the Ahmedabad crowd, was far more peaceful. It was far less violent.
Yes, I mean, I agree entirely that this is being blown out of proportion. But I think that the point really is that, we have highlighted the fact that the ICC takes different stances at different times, and that needs to be called out. But the bottom line on this entire issue is about how we want to be seen. And this whole argument that, these people take the contrarian views to what, quote unquote nationalists are supposed to take. I think that is a very, very dangerous road to go down. Look, Disney Hotstar apparently had record views for the India-Pakistan match. So those who say that they will boycott this game are a minority, and that is very clearly brought out in the reactions that we have seen. That overall, people know that they will separate politics and sports, except certain mischievous elements and politicians, and on both sides of the border, who benefit from dividing society to the extent that they can.
I'll leave it at that because I'm completely out of time. But let's see how this story plays out, and if there is any further political reactions to it, or even if the sportspersons involved put up some kind of a reaction to it. I want to thank all our guests for joining us on Debate 1 here on Brass Tacks. As we take a break, it's what is coming up on the other side, the Motorola 5G coming up.
Hello, Moto.
Four Indian families from Sderot, they have also fled, and they were part of the community here.
Yeah.
So you see, the entire city of Sderot has been become like a ghost town. There are streets, houses well built, nice streets, and you will not see any single person who is still living there. Very few people like Edna, they have not fled from the spot. They believe in God, and they think that probably the Almighty will save them once again and for all. The town of Sderot, which used to be very hustling, bustling, wears a very deserted look. Streets are empty. Free any emergency vehicle or people who have been, some of the media people also visiting the place, but mostly the citizens of this city, they have fled, fearing their security and safety, and also that the security establishment of Israel asked them to leave because they feared that many of the Hamas terrorists could be hiding in the garb of being citizen of the city. So almost like say have fled from the city. The shops are closed, the schools have been closed. You will not find anybody around the place.
אנחנו חיים פה בשדרות ונשאר פה ועוד בשדרות.
All people fled from the city.
אנחנו פה. Yes. Okay.
Most of the people have fled from the city. People have not even cleared this debris of the blast that happened on 7th of October mostly, and because most of the town is empty now, people have fled, so nobody is there to take care of the stuff, nobody is there to take care of the cleaning, and it looks like a weird vibe in this town. Everything is all good, houses are nice, streets are clean, but there is no one who is living here. It's a weird feeling walking in a town which could have been a very busy and normal and active place, but right now it's very nicely planned, well-built city with greeneries, clean streets and nice houses, but tragically there is nobody who is living right now here. And this is the town of Sderot, which was under heavy attack from Hamas terrorists on 7th of October. Of the thousands of rockets that were fired from Gaza targeting Israeli cities, many of them fell in the city of Sderot also. Ashkelon was also another city. Ashdod was the city when those who were attacked, and those are nearer to the Gaza Strip. These are the remnants of what is.
It's been 10 days since the world watched in utter shock the crimes that were committed against Israeli civilians by Hamas terrorists across large parts of southern Israel bordering the Gaza Strip. Women, children, the elderly, no one was spared. Over 1,000 Israeli citizens have died, and now we're given to understand over 150 of them are still in captivity. In response, Israel has launched a massive operation, primarily through airstrikes up until now, but it is also preparing for a massive ground invasion of Gaza. It has asked more than 1 million Gazans living in the northern part of that tiny strip to move south in what the UN says could lead to a humanitarian catastrophe. But beyond the shock and awe of the pictures that we saw 10 days ago and the immediate aftermath of the loss of so many innocent civilian lives, where is this story moving? What is the long-term solution, if at all there is one, between Israel and Palestine? Joining me now for a comprehensive understanding of this issue, not just the immediacy and the brutality of the pictures that has shocked and awed us, but also towards a more permanent solution to try and help us understand this. I'm now joined by a very special guest. Yuval Harari is an Israeli author and historian. Thank you very much, Mr. Harari, for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. Thank you for inviting me. Let me start with asking you, the events of October 7th. For you personally, I'm sure it's still etched in your memory. It's perhaps images you won't ever be able to forget in the rest of your lifetime. When you saw those pictures, what was running through your head? What was going through your mind? Just the brutality of the terrorists unleashing mayhem on women and children and the elderly. What was running through your mind when you saw those pictures?
Yes, so it's very difficult for me to speak in these days. My aunt and uncle are members of one of the communities that have been really obliterated in this terrorist attack. They hid in their house as terrorists went house to house and brutally massacred their neighbors. We hear terrible stories of parents being executed in front of their children, of people being tortured to death in the most gruesome ways that the terrorists could think of. My aunt and uncle somehow survived, but they and the other survivors are now refugees, and they cannot go back to their village, to their community under the present conditions. And, we are seeing also terrible scenes now from Gaza, and there is a massive humanitarian crisis unfolding. I'll try to comment on that, but I must say that the minds of Israelis at present are so filled with pain that it's very difficult for us to even acknowledge the pain of others, even though it is there. It's just psychologically, the mind is just filled with pain.
So tell me, Mr. Harari, there have been wars fought between Israel and Palestine in the past as well. There have been wars even between Hamas and Israel in the last 15, 20 years or so. But the events of October 7th and the manner in which at such a large scale in 20-odd locations, it was not IDF personnel who were targeted or government officials who were targeted. It was the most helpless amongst citizens who were targeted. Why do you think that was the case? What was the thinking there?
I think the thinking of Hamas is to wage a war to end all peace, to make sure that there is never peace in the region. Nothing frightens Hamas more than the possibility of peace. Israel, the background to this attack is that Israel has signed a couple of peace treaties with Gulf states in recent years, and we were just on the verge of signing a historic peace treaty with Saudi Arabia, which was supposed to normalize relations between Israel and most of the Arab world, also to improve the lives of millions of Palestinians held under Israeli occupation in the occupied Palestinian territories, and possibly also restart the Israeli-Palestinian peace process. And this frightened Hamas, and this is why Hamas launched this terrible attack, and it did it in a way that was calculated to sow seeds of hatred, not for a few weeks or a few months, but for generations. Again, when you torture and kill parents in front of their children and make sure that this is publicized, you not only traumatize these children, you traumatize an entire nation. And the aim is to make sure that there is never a possibility of peace. And I think that Israel now is in a struggle, not just to protect its territory and citizens, but to protect its humanity. Despite what Hamas did, Israel must keep the possibility of peace alive.
So to that extent, the Israeli response now, there have been massive airstrikes across the last 10 days. Israel is preparing for a big ground invasion. Do you think, in that sense, Israel is sort of walking into the trap that Hamas has laid? Because Hamas, like you said, wanted exactly this. It wanted all these peace accords between Israel and its Arab neighbors to be completely blown out. There is no more possibility of the Saudi-Israel deal because Saudi Arabia has also taken its traditional position when it comes to the Palestine question. Has Hamas achieved what it wanted to achieve through the course of this terrorist attack? And is Israel, the US, and perhaps some of its Arab partners also, by doing what they have done in the last 10 days, walked into that trap? How do you get out of that trap?
Yeah, it's a very dangerous trap. Again, Israel needs to find a balance between its duty to protect its citizens and its territory. Again, on a very personal level, my surviving family members, they are now refugees. They just can't go back to their homes as long as a terrorist organization like Hamas exists and is armed a kilometer or two from their homes. On the other hand, Israelis should not go down to the level of Hamas. Unlike this terrorist organization, we should remain committed to international law, to human rights, to the hope for peace. So how to find this balance is very difficult, and we need help from our friends around the world. The United States has done some very, very important moves in recent days. On the one hand, giving full support for Israel, including even sending 2 aircraft carriers with hundreds of airplanes to Israel, and also at the same time restraining Israel from widening the circle of violence and putting pressure on Israel to adhere to international laws and norms. And I think that if Israel received similar support from our friends across the world, it will make it easier for us to do the right thing. Because again, what this attack really tried to do is to destroy our trust in humanity. When you witness such atrocities, this is really an assault on the mind, on the soul. It really destroys your trust in humanity, and then you lose your own humanity. And when outsiders, like the United States, like India, in this moment of crisis, I think their important role is to help us regain our trust in humanity and make sure that we don't descend into the depth of depravity of an organization like Hamas.
Okay. I also want to know your thoughts, and there is this argument that's been going on for the last few days. There is a sort of moral equivalence that's being tried to be drawn. Hamas killing innocent Israeli civilians, and then the supporters of Hamas or the supporters of the idea of a Palestinian state saying that, well, Israel's going to kill innocent Gazan civilians as well. What do you make of this trying to draw a moral equivalence kind of argument?
I think we should be very careful about that. Again, we should have sympathy for human suffering or wherever it is. But Israel is not deliberately targeting civilians for the sake of killing civilians. A lot of civilians, millions of civilians in the Gaza Strip are now under enormous pain and fear. But Israel's aim is not to slaughter as many civilians as it can, in contrast to Hamas. Our aim, again, should be eventually to come out of this with a possibility of peace. Hamas was never willing. This is the thing, again, that frightens it more than anything else, the possibility of peace. So there is no moral equivalent there either. Again, I've been in recent years a very fierce critic of the Israeli government and of Israeli policies with regard to the Palestinians. I think Israel has made terrible mistakes in the way it abandoned many attempts to make peace with the Palestinians in its policies in the occupied territories. But this is no justification for what Hamas has done. And again, it should be very clear, Hamas didn't annihilate my uncle's community and murdered and tortured civilians in the hope of restarting the peace process. It really hoped to sow seeds of further violence and hate with this. And you see it also now with the hostages crisis. You know, and one more point, many of these communities on the border with the Gaza Strip, people, they are not the settlements in the occupied territories. They are actually some of the last remaining bastions of the Israeli left and of the peace movement in Israel. I'll give you one, again, human story from my uncle's community. A 74-year-old woman called Vivian Silver. For years, she lived under rocket attacks from Gaza, but she remained a very important peace activist. She, one of her missions was to drive sick people from the Gaza Strip to hospitals in Israel. And this she did for years, despite repeated attacks by Hamas. Now, she's 74 years old. She was kidnapped. We don't know where she is. We hope she's not dead. Hopefully, she is now held hostage by Hamas. I mean, why hold a 74-year-old peace activist hostage? Who does such a thing?
I also want to know, and one of the pertinent points that you made is the intent of Hamas in the October 7th barbarism was to target civilians, whereas the Israeli Defense Forces, in whatever operation they've undertaken over the last week or 10 days, or what they intend to undertake now, the intention is not to kill civilians. Civilians could be collateral damage, but I think that's an important distinction to make.
I cannot, I'm not familiar with every step Israel takes. I cannot defend necessarily every step Israel takes. Sure. I have my own suspicion of the government, but it's very clear that Israel doesn't try to kill as many civilians as possible like Hamas has done. And that the problem that Israel faces is that Hamas is using Palestinian civilians as human shields. Hamas has placed its military installations, its weapon systems inside population centers, civilian population centers. There are reports that Hamas is trying to prevent civilians from leaving the battle areas in order to have this kind of protection from Israeli attacks. This is not what happened on the massacre on the 7th of October. The communities that were targeted were totally civilian. There was no military installations or weapon systems inside these communities.
I also want to ask you about your thoughts on the response from the government of India and the Prime Minister, one of the first, I believe, within the first few hours of the attack last Saturday, to come out and publicly condemn the attacks, call it terrorism, and say that we are on the side of the victims of the Hamas terrorism that was unleashed last Saturday in your country. Is it time for everyone, when it comes to the question of terrorism, where civilians are attacked and the intent is to attack civilians, that should be called out? The civilized world should not have any place where civilians are attacked.
Absolutely. Again, a distinction needs to be made between Hamas and the Palestinian people. They are not the same thing. People should, at the moment, voice their concerns for the safety and rights of the Palestinian civilians, but they should condemn in every possible way and sanction in every possible way the terrorists of Hamas. And I also hope that I know that India is had good relations with Iran and with several of the other countries involved in the crisis now. And I hope that India uses whatever influence it has to help de-escalate the conflict and also put pressure that, to provide the first tiny ray of light that Hamas immediately releases without conditions all the hostages it took.
So
you,
you believe that would be the immediate starting point to try and talk about any kind of pullback or to try and talk about any kind of de-escalation. The starting point for that has to be the release of civilians who've been taken hostage.
Again, talking almost on a psychological level, if all the hostages are immediately released, this will give a small breathing space for the Israeli public, for the Israeli government to feel that there is hope, there is some hope in the situation, and this could be the basis for de-escalation that will also protect millions of innocent Palestinian civilians from terrible suffering.
All right, one final word. Israel is going in, most likely the ground operation will start this week. The idea, the military objective is to ensure that Hamas is dead and that Hamas does not have the ability to launch the kinds of attacks that we saw last Saturday on Israeli citizens. But what happens after that?
Yeah.
What comes after Hamas? Is there going to be a vacuum? What takes the place of that vacuum?
There can't be a vacuum. The vacuum invites the worst chaos. There should be hope. There should be hope not just for families like my uncle's family that they can go back living on next to the Gaza Strip. There must be hope for the Palestinians inside Gaza. Again, at this moment, it's almost impossible to imagine it. But I hope that whether it's the Palestinian Authority, whether it's the United States, whether it's Saudi Arabia, India, Turkey, whoever is willing to take upon themselves the extremely difficult task of simultaneously rebuilding Gaza and giving hope to the Palestinians there and making sure that Hamas remains disarmed, that the Gaza becomes demilitarized and doesn't continue to serve as a basis for terrible terrorist attacks on their neighbors.
All right. Yuval Noah Harari, it's always a pleasure speaking with you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us here on CNN News 8.
Presented by what had happened on the day when this attack happened on the city of Sderot. There's an eerie vibe in the entire town when we see this ghostly town, nobody around, and it wears a very the city wears a look that is of a utopian world where the city is built, nobody's there. Behind me, what we are seeing is those JCB machines are clearing the debris of 7th of October when the entire region or the entire locality was taken hostage by the Hamas terrorists. The police station, which is now in rubble, was also taken hostage by these terrorists, and about 20 to 30 people from the city were killed, including policemen in the police station. Several of the Hamas terrorists, about 20 of them, were also killed during the hours of gunfight that ensued following the attack of terrorists in the city. And as we have seen, the entire town has no citizen, only the reservists, the people, the police, security personnel, or some of the media persons have been around this place covering the story of tragedy, the trail of destruction. And the entire beat you would see for 100 meters there is not a single person that is visible, and entire town, buildings, hospitals, education institutes, centers of activity, everything is empty, everything is vacated by the people of Sderot. So we are joined by Adna, and she is 71-year-old. She is one of the few who has not left the city of Sderot, which has been under attack in the last 7 days. We have seen, like on 7th of October, there was a massive massacre, a rampage of Hamas terrorists, which went on for hours in the city. And after that, security forces have taken hold of the city, but many of the civilians, almost entire civilian population, has fled from the spot. Ma'am, you are still here, so why didn't you go?
I didn't go because I trust to the God help us.
Hello, Namaskar, this is First Post and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. After a week in Israel, we're back in India, and what a week it's been. We saw the war escalating and the politics intensifying. We also saw all your messages. Thank you for writing to us and for tracking the developments in West Asia through us. We'll continue to update you and analyze the events and statements. Let's talk about what happened today, day 10. It came with the possibility of a ceasefire, of the fighting being slowed to allow Gazans to cross into Egypt. But it did not happen, and we'll tell you why. Why Israel insists on evacuation, Hamas is stopping Gazan civilians from leaving, and Egypt is not allowing them to enter. Also, what's the status on the northern front? Is Hezbollah joining this war? How much firepower has the US deployed in support of Israel? We look at American military assets in the region. Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin are meeting in a few hours from now. Where do they stand on the Israel-Hamas war? Who do they support? And where does India stand? We'll discuss that too. Also revisit the debate on who is a terrorist and why they should be